Let me first talk about what happened last time. I'm really sorry. Wait for a second. Sorry about that. I'm really sorry for not making a video last time because at the time I had to go to my grandmother's, birthday, which actually was pretty fun. And I sort of got drunk. Don't trust me, it's not really illegal in the Philippines to basically drink that young, but thankfully it's just diluted. And yeah, let's just say I was a bit smashed because it turns out that I'm a lightweight. So yeah. And also, it's also pretty much fun there because I was doing karaoke, and let's just say, my brother at the time, he was super drunk. By the way, he's younger than me, which is pretty much impressive by itself. And let's just say his singing was amazing, and you should have seen him. Anyway, so let's actually start off the video. Hello guys, what happened? Hello guys, I am back from another video today which is about what if Deku was in Genshin Impact or reincarnated into Genshin Impact. So, in the last video we talked about how, after arriving at Lingxing Park, or at least I think that's the name of the actual place, they would meet up with the, Adeptus, otherwise known as his Moon Carver. After explaining the whole situation with them and also some leeway officials, which apparently they were framed for basically killing the Archon, aka, Rex Lapis, which kind of, pissed them off, and guards would basically try to spy on them. And let's just say when they saw Moon Carver, well, they were basically shaking their boots. And let's just say Moon Carver was basically having a rage-fueled, session right now with the other guards. Basically telling them to maybe tell their officials to try and be a little bit more, I don't know, perceptive next time. So, yeah, they would basically start to run away. And so they would basically, go towards the other, Adeptus. Like, for example, I think his name was, Mountain Shaper. After meeting with, him/her, I don't really remember his actual gender, they would basically, they would basically explain what happened, especially with the whole, Rex Lapis dying. Well, they would also basically say to him, specifically, Mountain Shaper would basically tell them to basically go and talk with, Cloud Retainer. After talking with Cloud Retainer, which she was basically maybe planning to, destroy the entire city of Leeway, but, Izuku would try to convince her to basically try and not to do that. After a bit of convincing, she would basically, relent and decide to basically help them out. And then finally, they would start to, go towards the last, Adeptus by the name of Zhao, aka the Guardian Yaksha, which was pretty hard because some of the idiots would basically say, no, I think the name of that actual, inn is Longxing. I'm just not really good with Chinese, okay? I'm not really good with Chinese words, so I'm just gonna call it, just the inn for now. So, after arriving at the, inn, which was pretty hard because some of the idiots there would basically say, no, the inn is over there. No, and then there's this other guy saying, no, the inn is over there. So, yeah, after a bit of, back talk and things of that sort, they would arrive and would talk to the owner, which apparently Zhao is basically on the roof. After a bit of talking to him and also, explaining that they were framed for basically being the killers of, his adopted father, which, aka Rex Lapis, they, or at least he, or whatever, aka Zhao, is pretty much pissed after hearing this. So after that, they would basically start to leave and meet up with Childe. Childe would explain after, telling them about, how they finished up their whole work, talking to the other, Adeptus. They would, god dang it. After, telling him that, he would basically tell them to basically, come with him later or tomorrow because he's planning to talk with some guy by the name of Zhongli. Apparently, Zhongli is actually a part of the funeral parlor. Or more specifically, what's the name of the actual part? Of Wangxing Funeral Parlor, or at least that's the name of the actual, funeral parlor or whatever. After basically telling them that, he would basically start to leave. So after doing that, they would basically start to go towards their, specific, currently housing. And after seeing that the place was burning down, well, let's just say they were pretty pissed off. Mostly because they didn't find another, home yet. So, after talking with the owner and basically getting their refund, they would basically start looking around to try and find, a new home. After a while, they would basically go to a little park where they're basically just sitting and basically sulking. And then they would see a familiar face. In this case, a girl by the name of, well, specifically Zhang Ling. After, talking about, or at least talking about the whole situation that they're in, Zhang Ling would offer both of them to basically stay at her house. After, agreeing to that, they would basically arrive at her house and would basically start to sleep on the floor with her. Well, Shangling was basically, cuddling with his arm, basically just going like, so soft. And Lumine is basically doing the same as, for little Paimon over there on his chest would basically start to drool all over her. Like, drool all over him. And after that, all three of them, or four of them if you count, Paimon, would fully go to sleep. So yeah, that is basically what happened last episode. And so, let's talk about what happens next. So, after waking up, which, let's just say, Izuku was woken up by, let's just say, Zhangling basically just like, sleeping on his arm and basically, cuddling up. And his head is almost near her, let's just say, crotch area. He would basically fully wake up and say, I think I'm fully awake, as he would basically start to move out, as, he's basically stuck there. Both Lumine and basically, Shangling are basically, holding on to them, like, holding on to, Izuku like a vice grip. Which, let's just say, would be pretty great in some situations, but this time, it was not great. So, he has to wait there, basically, feeling the hot breath of both of them, basically wafting up onto his, neck, and also somewhat on his ear, and would have to, just wait there for, like, an entire, hour. So, yeah, a few hours later, both of them would basically fully woke up, and would wake up, Izuku and Paimon. After eating breakfast, which was pretty much divine thanks to the help of, Zhangling and their cooking skills, both of them would basically say goodbye to Zhangling, as Zhangling would basically blow him a kiss. Which was pretty surprising because most of the time she's basically just an innocent little cinnamon roll. And let's just say, Lumine was pretty much jealous, and would basically look back at her as both of them are basically having the little sparks between them. Like, that typical anime trope where they basically have the whole, two rivals between them, basically just like, in between them, they're basically like a little bit of lightning striking, like, basically similar to that. Basically, if you get what I mean, you basically get what I mean. So, after doing that, they would basically start to go to Northland Bank to basically wait for Chill Day, which, if you don't know, I call, Child or Tartaglia Chill Day, which it's better than calling him Child because, it sounds a bit weird, not gonna lie. Like, naming your child, Child seems a bit redundant. It's like saying, oh, my dog is named Dog. So, yeah, I'm gonna be calling him Chill Day from now on. And don't judge me in the comments, okay? So, after waiting for Chill Day for like about a few minutes, they would see Chill Day and he would explain that they should go to what's the actual name? To go to Wangqing funeral parlor to meet up with the consultant of that, of the Wangsheng funeral parlor by the name of Zhong Li. So, after arriving there, they would see, a large reception, not really, table for, a receptionist, but it's more like a table for, eating and also having meetings. They would see a young man, maybe in like his late 20s, sort of, as he seems to have, dark hair that's fading into a reddish, not really reddish, more like, a, orangish color, almost similar to the energy that, the, geo, element basically, basically exudes, I guess you'd say. He seems to be wearing a fine suit that seems to have a more Chinese feel, which Izuku would just think in his mind, yep, it's pretty much, China at this point, he would think in his mind. As the man would basically be sipping on some simple tea, and seems to be having a lot of paperwork, as he would say this. Ah, hello there, Izuku of the multiple elements, and Lumine of the golden sword, he would say, as Izuku would say this. How do you know our names? As he would say this. I guess you could say word gets around, especially in Mondstadt, as he would say this. By the way, my name is Zhongli, and I'm the consultant for the Wansheng funeral parlor. I'm really sorry that my boss is currently doing some grunt work for herself, as Izuku would say this. So she's basically the one that basically does all of the work, as you would say this. Sort of. She mostly prefers to do it by herself because she's independent. But she's also quite, I guess you could say, incompetent at some point. As, Tartaglia, aka, Shilde would say this. Yeah, I guess you could say much about her. I mean, Hu Tao's pretty much a bit of a, I guess you could say, enigma. I mean, she runs a funeral parlor, but she's pretty much a ball of sunshine. I mean, sometimes. She's kind of creepy in my opinion, he would say, with basically, like, scratching the back of his neck, as, one of them would say this. I guess, Izuku would say, as you'd think in his mind, okay, this girl sounds a bit weird in my opinion, he would think in his mind, as Zhongli would say this. Alright, what do you want to talk about, Mr. Tartaglia? He would basically say, as you would say this, oh, just call me Childe. So, they would start the talk. So, they would basically, Zhongli would explain that apparently Rex Lapis, aka, Morax, aka their Archon, is not only a Archon, but also an Adeptus. And apparently, when the Adeptus dies, they, how do I say this? They sort of have a really big funeral, or, funeral, I guess you could say, procession. Or at least I think so. And apparently, this type of procession is called a rite of passage. Or at least I think so. Let me actually check the actual name. Yep, I was wrong. It's called the, let me just check again, god dang it. It's called the rite of, the rite of passing. Or at least I think so. So, after being told of this, they had to be, basically helping this guy. Which, let's just say, Izuku would start to think in his mind, are we supposed to be adventurers? I mean, I thought I'm going to be in a great, adventure, but at this point I'm sounding like more of a handyman than anything else. He would basically start to think in his mind. So, after being told of this, Zhongli would say this. Alright, we'll be going very soon, so get ready. After basically telling them that, they would basically, wait outside. So, after waiting outside, Zhongli would basically go outside and would give them a list of items. As he would basically say that these items are apparently the items that they need for the, rite of parting. And apparently, they're also allowed to basically see the Exuvia, which is the reason why they basically came here in the first place, which is basically see the Exuvia. Sort of. Kind of. It's more like, I guess you could say it's kind of like a bonus, I guess you could say. But, in actuality, let's just say Tartaglia has a bit of a mission. So, after being told that they had to, get some ingredients, I guess you could say, or items for the, rite of parting, they would basically start to leave. So, Tartaglia would basically, go for the other items, and for, Izuku, Lumine, Paimon, and Zhongli, they would start to go towards, an area that they can buy Jade Ore. So, after arriving there, it's basically almost night, as they would basically meet up with the seller. After a bit of talking with him, well, a certain, Zhongli would say, alright, can you give me all of your Jade Ore? After hearing this, Izuku would say, wait, you're that rich? As you'd say, what? I mean, it's pretty much common knowledge. As what would say this? Alright, it would be about millions upon millions of Mora. So, you would basically start, writing on a, I guess you could say like, um, checkbook, I guess you could say, and would basically give it to them, and would, be, I guess you could say, the actual, payer is going to be the Wansheng Fuel Parlor itself. After getting tons, and I mean tons of jade ore, which, by the way, is pretty much like a fucking mountain, as Izuku would say. Are you sure do we need to get this a lot? I mean, you said that we need to get, as you'd say, yes, I'm sure. He would basically say, as Izuku would say this. Either you're stupid or you're really that much of a greed. As you would say. I guess you could say that. As after hearing this, he would say, okay, as Izuku currently in his mind, why does he sound more like Yarurozu? Which, by the way, back when he was still, back when he was still in his world, he actually worked as the UA spy, which, when he first met Yarurozu and her concept of, here, here's some money, you lose. That's basically what it is. Which, by the way, just like mind-boggled him, which you would think, yeah, either that Yarurozu reincarnated into this boy, or, he's that much of an idiot with money, you would basically think in his mind. As, currently with, Lumine, she's basking in the glory of that much of, amount of, jade ore. And currently with Paimon is basically trying to get some of the money, or aka the, Mora. So, yeah. After seeing that much, jade ore, he would basically explain the reason why he has to buy a lot of them. Kind of. They're not actually gonna buy all of it, they're just going to be picking out the best jade ore, which Zhongli is actually pretty much proficient in that type of degree, or at least that type of, that type of thing. He would basically start to pick out several of the jade ore, and after a while of basically looking through them, Zhongli would reach towards about, 15, good jade ore, and would basically give back the rest to the seller. So, after that, apparently the seller would basically tell a tale about, how Rex Lapis, aka the Archon of this, or at least the used to be Archon of this world, or at least the used to be Archon of, Leeway, he would basically explain that apparently, Rex Lapis used to use an item in his shop, or at least, sort of. So, after a bit of talking to him, well, Izuku would basically go into his, wait for a second, go into his, little, I guess you can say, sort of, basically, it's kind of like a purse, or, kind of like a wallet, and would basically give some of the Mora to him, which, because of, Zhongli basically just, grabbing several, high quality, jade ore, well, he has to, use a lot of money, or in this case, Mora. So, after giving the Mora to the man, both of them would basically start to leave the actual place. So, yeah. So, they're basically going around trying to find a perfect place so they can start the, rite of parting. And they would arrive at, the area where supposedly, or at least, for Izuku and for Lumine, aka, Traveler, aka, you basically get it. And also, Paimon also saw the death of Rex Lapis, aka the weird-looking Asian-like dragon, which Izuku would basically think in his mind about that. So, after arriving here, they would basically start to think, why did the militant, attack us? Or at least, try to capture us, aka, the Leeway Guard. As, Zhongli would explain that, maybe they lost interest in them, or maybe because, after hearing about their exploits in, Mondstadt, they would think they're probably not, the suspect, or at least the suspects of the actual, killing of, their Archon, which thankfully, thankfully, they sort of became off the hook, or at least somewhat off the hook. So, yeah. So, after a while, basically, talking with, Zhongli, wait for a second. Zhongli would also explain that apparently the Exuvia, aka the dead body of, Rex Lapis, aka, Morax, is apparently in the Golden House, which apparently is the only mint for, Mora in all of Mondstadt, which sounds a bit weird in his mind because, Izuku would start to think, so this specific, bank or mint is the only mint in the world, or at least in Teyvat. He would start to think, why he would basically start to think in his mind, it sounds really stupid to him, because, the whole reason why they have mints, is because they need money, right? So why not make several mints in the, several areas of the world? And, Zhongli would explain that, Morax would decide to just, make this, specific, specific area as the only, area for them to basically mint, Mora's, because, it's sort of his home. So, yeah. Which is kind of a stupid reason, but Izuku would gladly, accept it for now. Sorry about that, wait for a second. Would accept that for now. So, wait for a second. By the way, they're not gonna go to, to the, I guess you could say the shop so they can get, silk flowers, because at the time, currently, what's his face? Shode is basically, getting the silk flowers instead. So, thankfully, I'm not gonna be doing that bit. But unfortunately, they're going to be going towards the area where they can get, perfume for the, rite of parting. So after arriving there, they would see the shopkeeper and would basically explain the whole thing. After hearing this, they would basically start to create the perfect perfume for this specific occasion. Apparently, Zhongli would basically explain that it's been a few dozen years since the, the rite of parting basically happened. So everything, and I mean the preparations, would have to be perfect. And, it's obvious, and it's pretty, and it's basically makes sense after all. It is an Archon. So, yeah. So, after a while, basically, making the perfume, they would basically make it and would see Zhongli basically nowhere. After grabbing the perfume, they would basically start to look around and would see Zhongli nearby a little statue, the statue of the Geo Archon. So, as they would see, Zhongli is basically, looking at the, statue longingly, almost like an old friend, Izuku would basically come up to him and would basically, explain to him that they finished the perfume. As he would say, sure. As he still looks at the statue. As Izuku would basically put the, perfume right on, not really on, more like, nearby the statue. As it would start to glow in somewhat happiness. Sort of. That's what Izuku thinks. As one of them, specifically, a certain girl by the name of Paimon would basically say, hey, Paimon thinks that maybe Rex Lapis has been reincarnated as an older woman. As Izuku would say this. Why did you think that? He would basically look at her in a strange way, as she would say, well, most reincarnations can either be boys or girls, or something of that sort, so maybe because of the perfume being for older women, as Izuku would think, oh god, he would basically start pinching the bridge of his nose. Please don't make it sound weird. As Paimon would say, why? As Izuku would say this, actually, I'm not going to tell you because you're too young. Or at least in my eyes. As she would say, Paimon isn't old enough. She would basically start, saying that to, to Izuku kind of angrily. As Izuku would say this, fine, kiddo. He would basically, look at her. As, currently Lamine is basically just looking at him a little bit like, just like, why am I here exactly? She's basically just thinking to herself, as Rex Lapis, aka, or the statue is still glowing, as Zhongli would say, "Oh, you seem to be almost familiar with each other. Are you perhaps boyfriend and girlfriend or something?" As both of them would basically start, blushing a little bit, as Izuku would say, "Well, I mean, we did, slept in the same bed," as he would say, do you mean you actually, as Izuku would say that, no, 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 it's nothing like that, I swear. As, currently with Louine, she would basically try to, stop the whole thinking process of, Zhongli, as after explaining, he would say, "I see. By the way, we should probably start to leave." As Izuku would also agree with Zhongli, and so all four of them would basically start to leave. So after a while, basically going around, they would see Shilde, as Shilde would say, "Ah, comrades." As after arriving there, he would basically, show them the items that he gotten. Mostly the items that, just like in the game, sort of. Like, for example, the cleansing bell, at least I think that's the actual name. And the... God dang it, I forgot the actual name of it. Oh, god damn it. So, after a bit of talking to him and also holding some info because, still don't trust him, sort of. But still, they don't really, trust him, but think he's sort of cool. But they still don't trust him all that much. So, after a while of basically talking to him, both of them, not like both of them, or like all four of them, or all three of them, because, Paimon's still pretty much emergency food. Oh, that stupid joke. Wait for a second. So, after a while, basically getting several items, which at this point, Izuku's starting to think, when will this goddamn thing will be over? As, nearby, AKB is just going like, "Oh, a lot." I just imagine just me in the background just going, "Oh yeah, a lot. You're just going to do many other things." Yeah, just imagine that. So, yeah. So, we go back to, Zhongli with, all of them basically there. Including, Childe, as Childe would basically leave them to basically do the other thing. Which apparently they have to go to Boohoo Pharmacy. Which apparently they need to go to that place to get everlasting incense. Which apparently these everlasting incense were also pretty much a pinnacle part for, the whole, rite of parting, which at this point Izuku is just saying, "Come on, now let this fucking end." He would basically start stretching his eyes at this point. I mean, Izuku started to think that this thing is starting to act like, more like a goddamn chore than anything else. So, yeah. So, all of them would basically start to, leave and go to Boohoo Pharmacy. After a while walking, they would see somebody at the door. It resembles a child, and this child was a girl. She seems to be wearing traditional Chinese clothing and seems to almost resemble a Chinese hopping zombie, which Izuku would notice this as she would say, "I am Chi-Chi. What are you doing here?" As, Zhongli would explain, as he would say, "Alright, but he's still busy, so I forgot where he gone." She would basically say, as Izuku would think, "Damn, she's adorable." He would basically think in his mind. He would start to think and also remember about Eri, as he would think, "Wait, what about Eri? How is she doing is she doing pretty well or something?" He would basically start to think. Meanwhile, back in the My Hero Academia verse, currently Eri is now a villain. So, yeah, Eri is currently just like getting her revenge for the death of her, adopted father, aka Izuku. She's basically saying, "I will kill that bastard. I'll kill him. I'll kill him." She would basically say, and currently, she's now actually 15. And is currently fighting against some heroes. Specifically, several heroes that are currently like, currently in the top 10. Like, for example, Bako as the #1 hero. She would say, "Just die, just die, just die." So, yeah, going back to the, to the universe where Izuku is currently in right now. So, yeah. So, after thinking about Ariel a little bit, he would say, so, where is he exactly? As he would say, GD, Chi doesn't remember. As Izuku would think, well, shit. So, all of them would basically start to wait in the pharmacy and would wait about, a few hours. After a few hours, they would see somebody come in. So, after a few hours, I'm gonna recount this, they didn't see anybody at all. So, after a few hours, they were basically still waiting, as Chi would say this. Chi thinks I can get the incense. As after hearing this, Izuku would say, wait, really? Then why are we staying here for like an entire hour? As she would say, Chi doesn't know, but either way, she would basically say, you need to go to Xiangling Ballista to find a Coco Goat. After hearing this, Izuku would say, Coco Goat? He would basically say with a question mark on top of his head, as, Zhongli would say, what is this Coco Goat exactly? I don't really know it. As, Lumine would say, me neither. As, currently with emergency food over there, she would basically say, Paimon doesn't know what the heck is a Coco Goat. As Izuku would think, yeah, what the hell is a Coco Goat exactly? As she would say, it's a brown goat. It gives off good milk, she would say. And apparently, they basically hang around a certain ballista. Specifically, I'm probably gonna butcher this, but it's called Guangzong Ballista. I'm probably pronouncing it, which, by the way, I'm probably gonna pronounce it pretty much wrong, so yeah, I'm not really good with Chinese at all, but my cousin is actually pretty good with Chinese. After all, he has a Chinese class, which fairly is hell for him. So, yeah. So, after being told of this, they would basically start to leave to go to this specific area. So, after arriving at the ballista, they would see that the ballista is pretty much in ruin. So, as Izuku would see this, he would say, damn, this technology seems to be quite advanced. As Zhongli would say, well, it is. After all, it was made by an Adeptus. Apparently, the Adepti were pretty much good at making this. And apparently, it was used to basically protect Liyue from beasts. But it seems that it's been destroyed for some odd reason. As, Izuku would say, so how are we going to fix it? I mean, it's pretty much useful. I mean, you can technically, just find any monster, or in this case, beast, so why not try and use it to basically try and find this Coco Goat or something? As, Lamine would say, that sounds like a great idea. So, after being told of this, Zhongli, Lamine, and Izuku are going to be finding these specific parts to fix the, ballista. So, after a few hours have gone by, they would finally fix it. And so, they would basically wait. And it doesn't detect any beast because, spoiler. Coco Goats do not exist. So, after a few hours of basically waiting, Izuku would say, there's no fucking Coco Goat, he would basically say, as, Lumine would say, yeah, it's been like, half an hour, so, as, wait for a second, goddammit, my voice. As Zhongli would say this, I think it's better for us to basically leave. After all, late at night is going to be pretty much hell for us, said Zhongli, as Paimon would say, yeah, Paimon thinks it's a bad idea to stay up late. So, after that, they would basically, all of them would basically start to leave. After arriving at Baiju's, or at least, Boohoo pharmacies, they would basically see, Chi-Chi basically all alone. As she would say, oh, you're back. Did you get the Coco Goat? As, Izuku would say, we couldn't find this Coco Goat thing. As she would say, I see. Are you going to get some cocoa milk? After hearing this, he would say, do you mean, let me just, talk to you about this. Do you mean coconut milk? Ash would say, yeah, cocoa milk, she would say. As Izuku would just, face plant onto the floor as he would say to himself, "It's fucking coconut milk!" He would basically start slamming his head onto the wall. As currently Lumine is just looking at him as she would say, "Why are you doing that?" As he would say, "Apparently, cocoa milk is apparently coconut milk." As Lumine would also do fucking the same. As currently Zhongli is just like seeing this as Zhongli is just like shaking his head a little bit. As he would say, "I'm no longer trusting any children, especially this one." So after a while of doing that, they would hear somebody walk in. As he would say, or at least this person would say, "Oh, I'm really sorry about that, and I'm really sorry that I was a bit late. My name is..." Wait for a second. As the person would say this, "Oh, I'm really sorry for, being late. Let's just say I was pretty much busy." As Izuku would say this, "Are you perhaps the owner of this fine shop?" As he would say this, "Right, my name is Baiju, and I'm really sorry," he would basically say, scratching a bit of his, scratching the back of his neck. As he would say this, "So, may I ask, why are you here exactly?" As Izuku would say this, "Well, we're here for the incense." As he would say this, "Oh yeah, how about 5 million mora?" After hearing this, he would say, crap." He would basically start to think in his mind, as he would start looking into his, wallet, as he would think, "Yeah, I don't have enough mora." He would basically start scratching the back of his head, as Lumine would say, "I don't really have enough mora as well." As Izuku would say, "Hey, how about we mix our mora together, or at least, use both of our mora to basically buy the incense." I should say, "We could try." And so they would basically start, counting all of the mora. Currently with, Zhongli, he is basically seeing this as he would think, "So that's how they can, that's how they pay for the, some of this stuff." He would basically start to think, as you'd think, "Yeah, I'm pretty much bad at math." He would basically see in his mind, and after a while basically counting, they would basically, make enough money so they can buy, the incense. So, after giving the mora to, wait for a second, after a while basically, getting, the incense, they would basically, get out of there, and would see Chode, as Chode would say this, "Hello, comrades," as he would say this, "Oh, hey," as, Zhongli would say this, "Mr. Chode, it's been a while, and how have you been?" As he would say this, "Oh, pretty much well. Anyway, do you have the incense?" As he would say this, "Yeah, I just hope we're done," said Izuku, as he would say this. You seem quite tired, comrade," as he would say this. "Oh, you think?" As he would say, "Anyway, you should probably get some sleep. Also you, other comrade," as he would say this. Specifically, Lumine. "Yeah, I guess so." And so, both of them would basically start to, leave with Zhongli in tail. So, as both of them are basically, leaving, he would see, or at least us, the viewers, would basically see a member of the Fatui, more specifically a Fatui agent, as he would say this. Specifically, Childe. What are you doing here, one of my loyal minions?" As he would say this, specifically the Fatui agent. "Sir, we have seen some of their antics, and we gotten some information," as he would say this. "Good. Now, any information about the ballista?" As he would say this. "Yes, sir. So, we go back to them right now. Specifically, Lumine, and also, Zhongli and also Izuku, basically them again. So, yeah. So, as all four of them are basically, just completely done with, the, preparations for the, for the rite of passing, or the rite of, whatever you want to call it at this point, Izuku and also them are basically at a restaurant, because apparently, Zhongli wants to, treat them. So, as Izuku is basically sitting down on the table, and they're gonna be having a little performance. Apparently, by a random performer, basically telling the tale of Ning Guang, aka the person that basically, works as, I guess you could say, the main person that does all of the work. Mostly for the Rite of Ascension. Or at least I think that's the name. So let's just say that. So yeah, they would basically start to hear the tale, which Izuku was pretty much intrigued, including Lamine. Paimon there is basically just eating all the food, including Zhongli, which he's basically just listening in while drinking osmanthus wine. Oh god damn it! It was finally time to do that meme, and you can't tell me fucking otherwise. He would basically start. I could just imagine like Zhongli just like they're talking about osmanthus wine in the background while Izuku was ignoring it. Anyway, so after the whole performance, Izuku would sense somebody nearby, as you would look towards a rooftop and would see an Adeptus with goat-like horns and light blue, hair. She seems to have, I guess you could say, reddish eyes. Let me just check. Yeah, she has reddish eyes. As she jumps down from the rooftop and would introduce herself as a emissary of the Liwei Jising. Her name was God Yu, aka Best Goat Girl, or Best Coco. You can't tell me otherwise. So, as she basically introduces herself, she would basically say, so you must be Izuku of the Master of All Elements. And you, Lumine of the Golden Sword. As Izuku would say, does everybody give me a title? Like, seriously! He would basically think in his mind, as Lumine would say this. Oh, hello there, Miss, Ganyu. What do you want to talk with us, exactly? As she would say this. Oh, it's not really anything important. But, wait for a second. So, she would basically say, well, we want to talk with you, especially Ning Guang. And after this little meeting, I also want to talk with you at a little marshland by the name of Dwihar Marsh. So, you'll be going there soon, and you're going to be going to the meeting place of Ning Guang in the Jade Palace. So, be ready, Mr. Izuku of the Master of All Elements, and you, Lumine of the Golden Sword. And hello there, Mr. Zhongli, she would basically say, as Zhongli would say this. Hello there, Miss, wait for a second, Miss Ganyu, he would basically say, as she would say this. Likewise, you may leave now. As she would basically start to leave, and, all three of them would basically look over, as, Izuku would say this. So, are we actually doing this? As, Lumine would say this. Do we have a choice? I mean, it's pretty obvious that we need to talk to her. As Izuku would say this. I guess so, he would basically say nonchalantly. And so, all of them would basically start to leave and going back, to their specific places. In this case, Izuku is basically going back to, where he's basically going to be sleeping from now on with, Lamine. In this case, Zhangling's home. As Zhangling would basically, say, hello to them and would basically go into her room, and both of them, four of them would basically fall asleep. Just like last time, Zhangling basically clinging onto his arm, for dear life, and also Lumine basically doing the same as, Paimon is basically sleeping on his chest, not that way, basically like a baby, and basically, slobbering all over, Izuku's chest. And so, all of them would fall asleep. So yeah, that is going to be the end of this episode. And so, I hope you liked the video, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye-bye!